Hello everyone, my name is Zim Ahmadi, peminat muzik tegar budak baru belajar. Selamat Hari Raya dan maaf saya batin to everyone that celebrates it. Today I'm back and I'm here to review Leaism's Kesuma. So Leaism is a neo-soul chanteuse who sings in jazz, soulful, funky vibes, and also has some reggae in between, right? She's actually been in the scene for quite a while, even though this is her debut album that was released earlier this year. Before this, she actually performed under the name Lia Ismail, where she, released more jazz pop songs, and one of her more famous singles is Langkah Baru. But she seems abandoned that kind of sound and now adopting a much more alternative R&B track, and it's evident in some of her performances even before. For example, the Rojak session video on YouTube of her performing shows the kind of vocal looping and bass lines that sort of make Leaism sound what it is today, right? She also did a collaboration with Takara Suiko in a YouTube video. It's called Gangster Mashup. And I mentioned that because Takara Suiko is the lead to Vinopian Solitude. And in that band, two of the members, Ruvi Amin and Kemat, are heavily involved in the production of this album, especially in terms of arrangement. So it's good to finally see Leaism come up with this album after so long, performing live and everything and releasing 2 singles last year. This album is the perfect encapsulation of what she's been trying to achieve all this while. But, we'll see whether her innovation makes it or does it fall through the cracks. And now, let's talk about Kesuma. So Kesuma basically is an album that combines many different influences. Some of it is alternative R&B, there's some city pop in there as well, and some tracks are very openly and unabashedly reggae too. So Leaism maintains a strong grip on her influences in this album. She cited influences like Erykah Badu, Hiatus Coyote, Lauryn Hill in here as well. And because of the reggae tracks, there's a huge Fugees kind of influence that's happening. The album is pockmarked with a few artistic decisions, I think, that don't really stand strong, or the kind of production that I feel is either too pristine for this album or just doesn't really serve any purpose to the tracks themselves. It's a solid listen, but it's not a consistent listen. That being said, Leaism definitely adopts a lot of really cool elements to this album, especially with the instrumentation features. Like, she features musicians as opposed to artists in this album, as opposed to singers, right? So, for example, you have Zyril Harriet on guitars, and Azim Cenk on drums, bass, and keys. And you also have the R&B artist Leo Ari featured in this album, who serves as a vocalist in one of the tracks. And I think these musicians definitely add depth to Leaism's strong suit already, which is a raspy, very unique and gruffy vocals that doesn't go awry in a jazz song, but really adopts a bigger personality in some of the other genre diverse tracks in this album. So I'm going to go into that in detail with the track by tracks. The first track, Love, is a solid pop track, and it's one of those tracks that has that, kind of funky vibe to it. And Azim Cenk Ali on the keys and bass is really cool. I love how the song swells. I love the subtle hugging groove to it and the cool little guitar and drum passages that gives the song the soul that it needs. And it's a poppy cut. It doesn't feel ashamed in terms of being a typical verse chorus verse song, but it's a solid track, right? And according to Leaism, the song Love is about her writing a love letter to her younger self, and the song celebrates sort of like that importance of self-love thing, and it really shows in the lyrics. But it doesn't really stand out instrumentally. I just love how the song evolves throughout, and the little passages really make it cool and a really decent listen. So next we have Dark Side. So Dark Side is the first instance of disappointment for me in this album, because the green and jungle percussions in this song is really cool, but I'm slightly annoyed with the vocal sample that happens in this track when Leah goes, I'm doing that in Injustice. It probably sounds better in the album, but it sounds bad even though it's better produced, because the wailing thing sounds like a cat or a duck, as opposed to, I think Leah's intention in this track was to create a more demonic and creepy feel to it, but the vocal loops just sound really goofy and really distracts from the otherwise nocturnal and darker vibes of the song Dark Side, right? Which is sad because it has a very visual lyric to it that speaks of, embracing the dark side and talking about, being lonely, the kind of solitude that sort of eats you from the inside. but all of that messaging is kind of ruined by the way in which that vocal sample is produced. I'm so sad by that. Next is the song Getir. I like the arpeggio synths, and Leo Ari's digitized voice in this album is a really cool feature, even though it's a very short feature, because it adds that whole like, oh, this is a phantom talking to you from a distance. I'm not really real. And Getir is really about that. It's a very heartbreaking song. You find this in lyrics like Resah gelisah kembali lagi, hantu-hantu menenami. Resah gelisah kembali lagi, hantu-hantu menemani pahit. Right? It's, befriending bitterness and letting bitterness enter into your life. But nothing else happens in the song except for that digitized effect by Leo Ari. So it doesn't really have that edge that I was looking forward to. Grokken Aku is the first reggae cut in this album, and it is beautiful and satisfying. The song is natural and organic. It feels like a fiesta. And I love that even though it's a reggae cut, I don't think Grokken Aku is corny. It's sensual, it's sassy, and that kind of attitude that Leah brings to the song really gives the song some depth and volume to it. And I love that the production is spacious, so it sort of gives like this party feel to it. And there's a very primal essence to this love song that feels like unfiltered. And the guitars that come in and sing along with Leah in the final verses as she sings, bangunkan aku, gerakkan aku, it's really sexy and in the best way possible. And I just want to say, like, the guitar passages really is the centerpiece of the song, but the way in which Leah vocalizes adds a kind of dimension to it that is insurmountable, incomparable with any other reggae tracks I think out in Malaysia right now. Next is the song Shadow. Shadow is another favorite of mine. It starts off with Anit basses coming into the bass line from the very beginning, and he's rocking it. It's sexy, it has a spacious production, it creates a wonderful enigma. And when the song switches to the chorus, I really enjoy that escalation towards a much more dreamy production where Leah sings to the stars to stay, and the guitar passages and all these things really makes it an atmospheric experience as opposed to just a song, right? The twinkly guitars really sell it, and the bass line at the end is also very satisfying. I love the jazzy drums that sort of chapter each verse in this song, and the tempo changes really serves it well. It kind of reminds me of Bad Bad Not Good a bit. It's funky and fun, and there's a kind of cheekiness to it as well. But the song Shadow is not a cheeky track. It's actually very dark. So the way in which the jazzy drums come in really creates this wonderful contrast to me. But the fact that it contrasts to very dark lyricism means that there's a whole lot of depth and dimension to Shadow that is incomparable to any of the other tracks in the album. Next, we have O. And O is this very simple, straightforward single that was released last year. I say simple and straightforward not as a complaint, but as a merit, because in this song, it serves as a really cool pop ballada platform for Leah's vocals. It's very romantic, it's very heartfelt, there's no nonsense to it. Not much innovation, but still a really good song. I have a feeling a lot of people would think O is one of their favorites in this album. And really, because of that, the production details to this song also gives it a retro feel. So it's not just your run-of-the-mill pop ballada song, even though it's predominantly pop ballada, because that retro feel gives it a personality and a dimension. Next song is In Levesque, and In Levesque is one of the more unique tracks in this album because it has that city pop, new disco kind of feel to it. This song is where Azim Jang Ali really shines because he's the arranger and he's the musician for all the instruments in this track. And I think that city pop sound is where Leah shines the most in this particular album, because when she is accompanied by that city pop sound, her voice serves as a very nostalgic decoration to that retro feel. And In Levesque is the perfect example of that. And the keyboard solo on this song is freaking delicious. The bridge is also really badass. Like, I love it when she sings, now I can't escape, I know how it feels when you cross my mind. Like, when that happens, you see all these instruments coming together to create that crescendo that is very exciting for a city pop track. Even though it's not a whole out dance track, you kind of feel like you want to move to it. Next is the song Goodbye. So Goodbye is another good song. It also is another pop song in the album. And the song has a very spacey vibe. There's not much I can say about it, but it's not a bad listen. Next is Mocha Java. So Mocha Java is the second instance of how and why I'm disappointed with this album. because Mocha Java has this funky and soulful kind of vibe to it, and I love how, you know, there's a samba instrumentation that happens at the end of the song that concludes it really well. But the fact that Leah sings the chorus through that vocal effects that makes it sound like she's shouting through a megaphone really ruins the song for me, because it distracts from, I think, what would have otherwise been really strong vocal pipes. And the megaphones just feels restrained and like contained as opposed to raw and DIY. So it makes it sound like a very pristine gimmick as opposed to adding anything of value to the song. Like, this track would have been way better if that digitized effect didn't exist, and Leah could have shown way brighter without it. Another song in the album that makes me happy is the song Smoke, and it's happy because it doesn't do too much, which makes me kind of feel that Leah is the safest and the best, which doesn't do too much in terms of, you know, the arrangements and the production. Because this song is just really Leah and Zyril duetting, with Zyril on the guitar and Leah on the vocals. It's very minimal, but the minimalism works really well. The sexy guitars kind of reminds me of like D'Angelo era R&B, you know, that kind of funky bass line with the guitars that really just add the kind of primal feeling to it, as opposed to doing anything too much. It does exactly the right amount of juice that makes you enjoy the song a lot. And Smoke is passion incarnate, even though it is about getting stoned, or probably getting stoned on life. I don't know, maybe you can interpret the lyrics in a much more PG-13 way, but it's one of my favorite songs. And the very last track of this album, Hidup, is such a brilliant finisher. It's another reggae cut, but it's a reggae backbeat that really elevates a self-affirming lyric. Like, it's not a superficial, corny reggae song. It's a song that is filled with wholesomeness and joy. I love that the song climbs to a very satisfying end, you know, with tribal chants and jungle beats and the acousticy pop intro that leads to this kind of huge jungle beat feels really well earned. And I just think this is a very beautiful and wholesome finish to Kesuma. So the bonus and hidden track in this album is basically just a song Oh, but it's an orchestral version, and I like it not because I particularly like the song, but it serves as a really cool hypothetical to imagine if Leaism didn't really find a new sound and she just became a pop artist too. Well, this would be that. O is the embodiment of Leaism's vocal chops when it's at its most pop ballada without any other filters to distract from it. So, what do I feel for Kesuma? In conclusion, Kesuma is, I think, a decent balancing act between Leaism's pop history and her exploration into newer and fresher alternative R&B sound. Like, the innovations in this track don't really go too crazy. They're often filtered by a pop lens, which I think is cool because it's very respectable to still explore new things and still sound slightly more accessible. However, I can't help but feel that there are some instances where, because of that intention, some of the production in this album gets heavily diluted, or there are artistic decisions in here that I just think didn't fly well at all, like in the song Dark Side or in the song Rukajiwa, or even in some of the good songs like Getir. There are a lot of raw potential in that could have blossomed but didn't, because of that need to be pristine or because of that tendency to be poppier than usual. As a result, I feel that in general, Kesuma is a really good album conceptually. Like, you can see that in the design, it adopts that nocturnal and kind of natural feel to it that is respectable, but because of that, the songs don't really meet up to that aesthetic. And I don't think Leaism is stopping here. It's just her debut album. There's a lot more innovative potential to come through, but at the end of the day, because she hasn't met the potential, I'm gonna give this album a 3.5 out of 5. So have you guys listened to Kesuma by Leaism? If you haven't yet, you can buy the album from her social media page, which is just Leaism. And if you have any comments in terms of how I reviewed this album or in terms of the album itself, you can say so in the YouTube comment section or hit us up on social media at APRMag42 on Twitter and Facebook, or Awful Track Record on Instagram. So if you guys have any recommendations, you can also hit us up there. My name is Zim Ahmadi, peminat muzik tegar budak baru belajar. I'll see you guys next episode. Selamat Hari Raya.